a quorum with Mr. Gerardo Martinez and I. It is 9:31, October 6th, and this is the sorry, Board Facilities Committee. First item is the review of advanced metering infrastructure contracts by Mr. Eddie Hernandez. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, do we have everybody? We got Cody, Jason. Okay. My name is Eddie Hernandez. I'm the Director of Enterprise Solutions for PUB. As you're aware, we've been working on the AMI project for the better part of a couple of years now. And we are finally through with the phase of vetting the contracts. We've been doing that for approximately 9 to 6 months. So we've got them in a position to where we're ready to bring those contracts to the board. The original project was approved by the board with a $29.7 million budget back in almost a year ago, September, I believe September 2nd, 2022. And since that time, we've been working on this, trying to get everything together. We've got that. In the background, we also have many people, teams, customer service team, electrical team, water team, that have been working to put all the qualifications that they need. So this reflects all of that staff has brought together. I just wanted you all to be aware of that we've had like 40, 50 people working on this. Today, we're gonna do a quick overview of the contracts. The point of this is to kind of try to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling that yes, we've gone through them, we've read through everything, we've done our best to vet all the issues. I believe online we have Cody, I forgot. Cody Falk. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Cody Falk, our attorney, who's been leading the effort with the Spencer Fane Group. And we also have eSource, our consultants, Mr. Jason Javak, and he'll be doing the driving on this. So Jason, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Right. Thanks, Eddie. All right, I'm going to start out with just a brief overview of AMI. I believe Eddie has provided a very deep dive on the big picture of AMI for the committee. But in a nutshell, AMI is a system, advanced metering infrastructure is a system, the solution that is going to allow PUB to collect meter reads and understand how their system is performing via monitoring for leaks on the water side, and also be able to impact some customer engagement by doing automatic turn-ons and shut-offs. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on the AMI, but if there are other questions right now, we certainly can have that discussion.
Yeah, as we walk through the slides, if you have a question, please stop us and we'll be happy to answer.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry. I have my microphone up. Let me see if I can.
I mean, I can. Is there a way to put your microphone close to you?
It's in the camera, so let me
That
see.
sounds better.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Hear you and see you.
Okay, let me see if I can turn up my audio. That doesn't.
I think the loudest is not what it is the actual muffling sound that it sounds like. So we hear you, but you're muffled.
Okay, I will do my best to speak clearly and slowly.
Yeah, enunciate.
Enunciate, yes. Okay, any questions on AMI and what it is?
Nope.
No.
All right. I just also want to note that the AMI is it's integral to the strategic plan. It meets a number of objectives, both on operational side and the customer engagement side. I'm sure you're very familiar with your strategic plan, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but once again, if there's questions, we can dig into those now.
No, not working. Sorry, I can't really. understand what you said. Could you give the presentation, Eddie?
Yeah, I can drive. I'll let you know, Jason, and when to move the slides. One of the things that we wanted to do is when we did the overall PUB strategic plan about 5 years ago, AMI was directly tied to the goals of the strategic plan. And the question was, we wanted to just make sure that you all understood that this effort was tied to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And obviously we're probably the newer board members, right? So we're familiar with it, and without the need to go into all of the details, what were maybe like the top 3 benefits that either the customer or PUB or both are going to get from, the AMI infrastructure?
Really, when you look at the issues and goals, it touches all of them. On the customer side, it will give them information that they can use to better manage their consumption and to see what's going on. The customer that will have a customer engagement portal will be the main portal that a customer can log onto and see everything for PUB, their consumption at 15-minute intervals. So you'll be able to know, if you had family over, what was the excess water, electricity you used? When did it happen? What's going on in the house? So from the customer perspective, they'll get a lot more information and be able to figure out how to affect their bills in a positive manner, proactively. Because right now what happens is we have 2 reads, one at the beginning of the month and one at the end of the month, and you don't get, and the differential is what we charge you. And you don't get that information until 15 days after we take that read. So you don't know what happened. So it's very difficult for customer service to help a customer in that regard. Like typically when summer rolls around, you get the bill 15 days after the heat comes in, and it's, well, what happened? Here, you'll be able to see it. You can even set up warnings that will tell you that we suspect that there's a leak because there's a constant consumption at the end of the night. Which shouldn't happen. So from the customer perspective, you have that. From the customer service perspective, now we have information that we can work with you and be more proactive. For instance, if there's an outage in a storm, we'll be able to most of us are at work during the day, so we don't even know if we have power or not. We'll be able to send you texts that tell you there's an outage in your neighborhood. We know about it and we're looking into it. The second text that you'll get should be something along the lines of, we found the cause of the outage. It's a blown transformer. We estimate it's going to take 3 hours to repair. Well, now you can schedule, okay, what am I going to do with the children? How do I plan out the rest of my day? Then the last email or text you should get would tell you, okay, it's been repaired. If you still don't have power, please call us back at this number, because then maybe it's a tree that fell on your line and not the transformer. Sometimes currently that happens. We'll fix one problem thinking that you're good and not realize that there's a secondary issue. So it's things like that we can, it changes the complete, I hate to use the word paradigm, but it really changes it to where instead of being reactive way after the fact, we can actually start to be proactive. Now, AMI is something that
PUB has, I guess customer service will have visibility to the consumption on a 15-minute basis
yes.
for water too?
Yes. Now, the meters don't transmit constantly.
Okay.
They send packets of information.
The data will be there, yeah.
The data's there. It sends it about once or twice a day. So we'll be able to see what happened recently. If there's a specific issue, we can ping the system, but you don't want to be constantly pinging it because then you burn the batteries.
Okay, thank you.
Next. And this is just where we are in the process. The process we've been going through, we did final vendor selection. We received board approval a year ago. We've been doing vendor contract negotiations for the last 9 to 6 months. And here we are at the program committee. Again, we wanted to kind of do an overview. We said originally when the project was approved that we would bring the individual contracts back to give you all an overview of how they look and any concerns or issues that we have with them. And that's where we are.
Eddie, where does eSource come in?
eSource has been our consultant. They've been helping us with this project. We worked with them 10 years ago when we did the first run at AMI. We did a pilot project 10 years ago. It was successful, but at that point in time, PUB decided that we weren't quite ready to do it
Mhm.
on the expense side and just from a technology standpoint. So we kind of put it on the back burner. And then about 4 years ago, I was asked to, okay, let's take it. We can't go any further as a company. If we're happy with the way we perform today, we don't need to do AMI. If we want to move forward in any technological field or workforce initiatives, you need to have this to be able to do it because we just don't have the data. We don't have the information. And management at that point asked me, hey, we know we need to do this. Can we re-engage? So we chose eSource as our,
Was it an open process? Was it an open process
originally, yes,
originally 10 years ago or originally?
10 years ago.
Okay, so no, 4 years ago, it was not an open
No.
process.
We just chose, the board was comfortable with them. They liked them. So no, let's just hire them again and have them run through this for us.
Okay, and so they have been involved at, every aspect of design.
Every aspect.
Okay, so the sampling that was done for the water meters, I might be getting ahead of myself, but sampling that was done for the water meters, they were the ones who advised on how to get it done. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so this is where we are today. Next slide. And this is an overview of kind of the whole solution. We tried to break it down by vendor so you could see what we're receiving from each vendor. For example, Landis & Gyr is providing the electric meters, the Gridstream RF mesh network, command center head-end system. Badger's providing the water meters, the Badger Orion cellular endpoints, and the Beacon head-end system. SmartWorks, which is the software that kind of brings all that information together and passes that to all of the other PUB systems. That's SmartWorks. They're a Harris company. We also use Harris companies for our customer service system, and we will be using one of their products for our customer engagement portal that I was just speaking of. So the integration should be good. Allegiant is the company that will come in and do the installation of the electric and water meters and the network installation services. Any questions? Next. And this is an overview of the initial deployment area. One of the things that we're going to do.
Sorry, I do have a question on the last slide.
Go back.
PUB AMI solution, what does solution mean there? Does it mean approach? Tell me what this means.
Basically, in other words, the
Solution to what?
well, in other words, you can do AMI in different ways. This is the method that we chose. We chose Landis & Gyr to do the electric. We chose Badger to do the water piece. So we kind of approached it from a best of breed approach. You can buy one system that does everything from a vendor, or you can go best of breed, which means that you try to choose the best solution for each, like the best solution for electric, the best solution for water, and the best solution for the software. And that's the approach that we took. So these are the partners that form the solution that PUB is using to address AMI. Does that make sense?
And you were advised to do this by eSource.
This was our choice.
Okay.
What eSource does is they helped us with the RFP. The company as a whole, the electric division, the water division, customer service, because those are the three main players. Well, and IT, so it's really four. All of the team of 50 people came together. We put together, this is what we want in an RFP. This is what we need in a system. And eSource helped us put together the RFP and publish it out. From that point, what eSource does is they're kind of the ringleader of the circus. They bring the people. We brought the people in. I think we had 4 or 5 vendors that came in. They did their presentations. We shortlisted it down to 3, 2, and then they help guide us, but they don't make the decision. We make the decision. In the end, they step back and they said, "Look, this is your solution. We're vendor agnostic." Their job is to really just point out the pros and cons. And then from there, PUB staff made the decision as to which solution to choose. The 2 finalists were Aclara, which was an all-in-one solution. And then this Landis & Gyr approach, which was best of breed approach, and staff chose the best of breed approach.
Thank you.
Next. This is the initial deployment area. The IDA, you'll hear it referred to that way. We're doing about 2,800 electric meters and 2,500 water meters, 1 network gateway and 7 network routers. This is kind of like a test area. This is where we test the communications, make sure the systems work together, the software integrations. It's the first trial run of the system to test everything out before we start mass implementation. We chose 4 different areas. There's the north side, and then there's the south side and southmost. We chose that area. On the north side, basically, we have some water-only areas there, like Lakeway. On the south side, we have water and electric, but we chose that because there are communication issues there. So we want to make sure, we chose the harder areas, areas where we knew we had issues. So, because if you're going to test, that's what you want to test. I don't want to test the easy stuff. I want to test the hard stuff. So that's even souther than southmost. We know that there's cellular issues there. The water communications part is cellular. So that's why we want to test that. Now, this works on a different frequency, so we shouldn't have the same problems as you would on a phone, but that's the reason we chose that. It doesn't show up real well, but you can see downtown. We also chose the downtown area because there's alleys, there's a lot of congestion. There's meters that are in concrete because they're in the sidewalks, things like that. So we chose the downtown area, which is Levy, Elizabeth, Washington, Adams, I believe Jefferson also. And there's some detailed maps on each of these in the appendix to this presentation that if you want to look at that. And then I believe we also chose some apartment complexes and areas that had schools in them. So we could see how the data comes back on those areas. So the purpose of the IDA is to just kind of get a good overview of the different types of situations we're going to run into.
I'm confused as to why we're seeing this. So is this whole binder only about the initial deployment area?
No, this whole binder is for the entire project.
Okay, so
The IDA is our step 1.
out of how many steps?
After we do the IDA, if everything goes well, then we begin mass deployment.
So what can go wrong?
What we want to do is, again, test the communications. If we've got communications issues, then we need to iron them out before we deploy. Is it an issue that's going to be system-wide, or is it an issue that is specific to a certain area? For instance, if we do the water cellular communications, and in downtown they're good, and in the north side they're good, but we still have problems in southmost, then okay, how are we going to address that? Do we need to put something to boost the signal? What do we need to do there to address that? So that's what the IDA is to kind of.
And what's the timeline for the IDA?
Jason, do you remember what our timeline is?
Yes, the IDA will start in spring of next year, and we have it running for approximately 3 months, a little bit longer than 3 months. And we typically will run an IDA until we have full user acceptance testing. To Eddie's point, that we've gone through all of the systems and all of the network, and we make sure that everything works end to end.
So spring 2024 until,
About
Early
3
summer.
months. So if we start in April, May, then it'd be June, July, August.
okay. And so is the information that you're going to present after this, like the next slides, are they only about the IDA or again, about everything?
It's about everything. So the contract information that we're hitting is the entire project,
Okay,
because it's the same for both. The IDA sits within the project.
okay. Now, so I'm asking these questions because some of the screening was only done in the IDA, right? Did I understand that correctly?
Jason, when we did the survey, that was system-wide. That wasn't just the IDA.
That was system-wide. That was a sampling of all meters across the service.
So we did a sample of approximately 500 meters from different parts of Brownsville,
I
not
see.
just the
So,
IDA.
so water meters,
Electric and water, yeah, we took a look at them.
and that was system-wide, not the IDA.
Correct.
So and again, I might be getting ahead of myself, but it's something that, came up with other board members before the meeting, as to why at the last, full board meeting, we were told that there was going to be additional cost
There
from.
Might be,
What's that?
there might be additional cost.
Okay, there might be, right. And this had to do with the screening process, right?
Not really. When we did the screening process, we came out with a number of about 10% of the meters, which is about
Right.
normal, that might have issues where the housing that sits around the meter is too low.
You remember from the last meeting?
This is what your typical water meter looks like. This is the meter itself, and this is the register. Okay, so this is what the meter reader reads to get the reading. Our new ones will be digital. So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of the fact that we've been using Badger for a number of years, and we're replacing about 18,000 Badger meters because we already have about 40,000 of these in the field. So what we'll be doing is we're putting in the new register, and attached to the register is the radio that pops through the top of the lid. Now, the way it works is the lid sits here and the radio kind of sits like this. The majority of the radio is underneath the lid. So you drill a hole in the lid, you push this through, and then you screw it on top, and that's the radio. And it's flush to the top, pretty much. The issue is, obviously, you can't place it like this because there's not enough room, so you place it typically to the side. So you drill, you put the radio in, you're good to go. Physically, we may have there's a concern that some of the meters, the housing is too low and there might not be enough clearance. So that's what we're taking a look at. We were not aware, our staff, PUB staff made us aware that they think that there's a bigger problem than we were aware of. When we did our screening, it only, of the 500 meters, we didn't see that much of an issue. They're thinking that it's a bigger problem. So we're going to do additional screening, but it's a physical issue that has nothing to do with the technology. You just physically got to fit the thing in there. And that's not going to go away if we don't address it. In other words, that's kind of a separate issue that will be there tomorrow, next year, the year after, it'll only get worse if we don't address it. There are a couple of ways we can look at it. The first thing we need to do is we are currently doing a survey. I have Meter Reading doing a survey, and they're looking at the lids, steel or plastic, because if it's steel, we need to replace it because you can't drill steel easily. And the radio needs to go through. So that's what they're doing this month. Next month, they will then do the depth of the meter to see, is it deep enough so that the radio will fit? It'll be a yes or no question that they can do on their handheld. Once we get that data back, then we'll know exactly how many meters we have an issue with and the exact address of those meters so that we can start to work on them. At that point, we'll come back to the board and let the board know, okay, we have options. The option is you can skip those meters if it's too costly, which is not a great option, but you can skip them. You don't have to do them. Even if you have 80% of the meters AMI, that's better than 0% because you're getting information. Again, this isn't as far as we know, we don't have any issues on the electric side of the house. The other solution that we're currently looking into is, you see how bulky this meter is and how big it is. Okay, there's a new type of meter that they make that's more of a tube. And it does have a register like this that sits on top of it, but you have a little more clearance. They're more expensive. They're about 50% more expensive than this setup. So we didn't choose those because when you multiply that times, well, then you'd have to replace all the meters. And that was going to add millions. However, if we find that we have a smaller subset, 1,000, 2,000 meters, okay, is it cheaper to lift the meter box and pay that fee? Or is it cheaper to just buy the new meter? So right now, what eSource has been doing for me is working with Badger to say, hey, is this other meter compatible with the system we're purchasing? The answer that we've received so far is yes. So then the next step would be, okay, if we buy these meters, how many of those will that solution address? And then what are we left with? And again, those are things that we'll bring back to the board at that point in time. We believe that the issue is not as great as what we were told, but we won't know. I have to let you know about that. I can't hide that. So, and I can't give you the information until the end of November, probably the middle of December, because we'll be doing the survey in November. And then we'll have a much better picture.
The survey is another screening? Is that what-
Yeah, we're going to do 100% screening of the system.
Okay. Okay, so your initial screening was 500 units throughout the city, not the IDA.
Correct.
And there you found that about 10% needed
Some remediation of some sort.
some sort, okay. And then now you're doing the whole,
Because of what we've been told, we need to react to that. So we're going to do 100%.
okay.
That way I'll have an exact number and I'll have addresses. Because then I have to go back to those addresses and do the work.
And the issue is the structure itself, or is it the dirt?
If you look at, if you get a chance and you go look at your meter, most of them sit flush to the yard.
Mhm.
Some don't. Okay, so they sit at different depths. The issue really isn't whether the meter's high or low. It's is it high or low in comparison to to the meter itself. So if you're walking around and you see one meter that's above ground versus another meter that's in ground, that's not the issue. The issue is the clearance between the lid and this thing, and will the radio fit? If it doesn't fit, then we have to lift the housing up a little. You have two choices. You can try to switch a meter out, or you can lift the housing up a little bit, and that costs about $130. I mean, $113. It's in the pricing that was submitted.
Is it something mechanical?
You dig it out and you lift it up and you fill it back in, and it's a physical plastic box.
Yeah.
Or steel box. So it's the box that just needs
So
to
the
be.
113 is the estimated cost for digging
Each.
it out, putting dirt, and then putting it back down?
Yeah, just making sure it's at the right height. That's it. So like I said, it's not a technological issue. It's a physical issue of how our meters are set, which was beyond the scope of what we were looking at. It just never occurred to anybody that that was going to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it. It's part of the environment, right? So,
Yes.
but now that it's been identified, I think you guys are taking the right decision and doing 100% of the survey, right? That way you have certainty around, how big the problem is or not. So December, you think you'll have that?
I think by mid-December, we should have the numbers. How long does it usually take us to get the survey info back?
It will be, based on the numbers of, I think, we decided.
1 to 2 weeks, yeah, mid-December. God willing.
So they're just starting to do the survey or?
No, they're doing it, as we speak, they're doing the first survey, which is steel or plastic lid, because I have to replace all the steel lids. That's a known, we knew of that, and that's in our budget. But again, I need, which addresses? That way we can send crews out there. We're trying to do as much work internally as we can versus hiring somebody to do it. But at some point, we have to make a decision. So once we get that info back, then we'll determine whether we do that work or we farm it out.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Next. And this is a contracting snapshot. The PUB team, led by Spencer Fain and eSource, along with PUB, went through the different contracting steps. We started in January of 2023. We started with DTRG, and then Spencer Fain replaced DTRG in May. Took them a little while to get up to speed, but they've done a very good job. I appreciate their help on all of this because we couldn't have done it without them. The negotiating teams have worked through 22 separate documents. So that big 5-inch binder, 22 separate documents of contracts, maintenance agreements, software as a service. It's the whole 9 yards of the entire project. So these are the documents that will govern the entire project from A to Z. General service contracts, master service agreements, material pricing, construction agreements, statements of work, performance acceptance and payment criteria, supplementary conditions and support agreements, and software as a service agreements, which means that the software is actually not on site. It's over there. We connect through the internet, but then they do all the maintenance and security upgrades. So we're up to date on everything. And any questions on this? Next slide. And this is just an overview of that busy chart on the side. That's all the different documents and pieces that we put together to get this project put together. Our major vendors, again, are Landis & Gyr, Badger, Allegiant, and Harris. And again, we list the services and equipment that we're contracting for. Any question?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the, okay.
So who is the single person accountable for all these processes? Would that be you?
Yes.
Okay.
My neck.
So you've read all these contracts thoroughly?
I've gone through all of them at some point or another, to be honest. We've been through them back and forth 3 or 4 times. Well, that's not true. We've been back and forth through them about 10, 20 times. I've been through them at one point or another. A lot of what you have there is the purchasing stuff, the purchasing requirements, and that's not my area. But as far as the vendor contracts themselves, yes, I have been through the vendor contracts.
I guess the scope of work.
The scope of work, definitely,
Yeah.
yes. Everything. Multiple meetings.
Okay.
Next. And this is just kind of a sampling. This speaks to the performance criteria and the acceptance criteria. In other words, we're not just handing them a wad of money. There's a whole list of criteria that they actually have to complete before they get paid. So each one, and we've kind of developed a chart where how they coordinate, because we do have them coordinating together. Obviously, I need the meters from Landis & Gyr and the meters from Badger in order for Allegiant to install them. So we all need to cooperate and work together. And then as they're being installed, the software is being implemented so that when it's up, the communications that then communicates with the meters and brings that information back to SmartWorks that houses all of that information for us. SmartWorks is like a giant data warehouse. Okay, and then it parses out the information to whatever other PUB systems need that information, whether it's billing or the customer engagement portal or OMS or whatever. So basically, this chart is kind of like a RACI chart that defines who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed as to what's going on each step. And then we do have performance criteria at each step where we have deliverables. And then once that condition is met, then we pay that portion as we walk through the contract. Is there anything else I need to cover there, Jason, that I left out?
I think what the key component here is that it really binds the vendors together. The intention is to put them in a position of having to work together so that they don't point fingers at each other for reasons why they haven't performed or haven't delivered as contracted.
It's forcing cooperation. Any questions?
No, I think that's pretty standard. So thank you for that.
Next. Now we're going to go into these are summaries of the contracts. The first page will be a summary of the system, and the second page will be a summary of the legal aspects. So I'll speak to the first page, and then Cody Falk will speak to the second page. Landis & Gyr, again, we're purchasing 55,000 electric meters, 16 network gateways, 33 routers. The head-end system, that's the software that actually does the communicating with the meters and sends that information back to PUB. Any software integrations that are needed between them and SmartWorks. And of course, the professional services, including training, testing, and management. You can see the fees up there, 6.7 million in capital and about 6,000 monthly O&M to keep the system running. The term of the contract is 15 years plus and the key takeaways is Landis & Gyr committed to meeting the service level agreements on network performance and redelivery. The integrations include our OMS system, which is our outage management system. And there was there has been one change to the original budget of 29.7 million, a $500,000 change. That was minimal, so that was handled in-house. That was a request by our electric department to upgrade the meters. We had the original quote and it was blessed. Then after more review, the electrical division requested some reactive meters that will give them more information, and which is good because better that you do it up front than after the fact. So that was the upgrade that was requested. So that's what that is speaking to. So the overall budget is now 30.2. Next.
And on the O&M, again, without getting into all the fine details there, but that's just replacing, is it equipment?
No, O&M is operations maintenance. So that's the maintenance to run the software for the next annually. In other words, you pay maintenance, software maintenance. You have maintenance agreements with all of our software vendors have a maintenance agreement. So in other words, you pay them the licensing annually, and that's what that speaks to.
So it's not like hardware, it's just
No, this is the
software license.
right, upgrades, maintenance, that kind of thing.
I do want to explain a little bit. I'm going to turn it over to Mark, why the electrical upgrade and what was the benefit to our customer base.
So without trying to get too technical, reactive power, why it's important, it's power that's needed to send the energy to the customer that's used. And that real energy that's recorded on the meter and the customer pays for that. The reactive power is not recorded. And so it's energy we produce, we charge to the line, but we're not getting paid for it. And so what you do is with these types of meters, you can measure that amount of reactive power that's needed. And the customer then can have a choice. They can either pay for that through a power factor charge, or they can install new technology like a capacitor that reduces the amount of that reactive power. So it improves the system, it improves the revenues, and improves the customer's use of the system to make it more efficient. Right now, we don't have that capability.
And that's industrial or residential?
Well, the biggest users are industrial customers. Think of folks who have a lot of motors, things that have quick startup, those types of things.
So one of the things, like Mark mentioned, is this is something, a benefit for our customers, and there's a lot more sophisticated industrial customers that are coming into our service territory, and they're requesting this type of things. We're not alone on this. You know, we get questions about neighboring utilities. What is it that we're doing? And this also comes in down the line would be having our rates in place to be able to address the technology. So these are the first steps. And also, this also helps a lot when we are looking into the system, when we have extreme weather conditions, what the line is doing, we might be able to send a signal to the customers in a certain area. Hey, you might see an overload in your system because all of the motors are being turned on, or like AC equipment or heaters at the same time. And we might be able to have a little customer appeal message before we lose that equipment on that system.
Okay. I think one thing for us to understand is, it sounds like that was outside of the scope of the original project.
No. So measuring reactive power is a benefit of AMI. AMI is a lot of different technologies put together.
Yeah.
So, AMR, advanced meter reading, is really just that. It's just reading the meter, but we've gone well past that in the industry. So this includes customer portals, billing systems, customer relations. And so this idea is one benefit of having that type of meter on the system and be able to read that remotely. So it's an added benefit of having an integrated AMI.
Yeah, understood. I think from the concerns that I understood in general was just on the, I don't know if the word is the design, right? But if, for example, if this is part of the scope, why wasn't it taken into consideration in the beginning? You know, why did we have to add?
Oh, the measuring of reactive power?
No, the adding of $500,000 additional monies to upgrade those meters.
It's an additional feature that was not in the original scope.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Was it outside of the original scope?
Yes.
If it's within the original scope,
No.
then the concern is, you know, that similar to the mechanical cage
Yeah.
and, you know, there might be other little bugs here and there that could be an issue. And I understand of the project, you're not going to know everything 100%, but
Right.
how
So-
can we minimize that and who's driving that, right? Is it you that's designing it and taking those decisions? Or is it through the help of a third party? In case we run into issues, we just want to understand who is ultimately going to be responsible for that.
Well, if we run into issues, in this case, this was a request from the electrical division to add this feature. So it was not in the original scope. So we haven't run in, other than the one issue of the meter housings, we haven't run into anything. To answer your your second question, as far as if we do run into problems, typically the way it works is then I would work with eSource and whoever the vendor is that we're trying to resolve the issue with. We would then pull in, if it's a technical issue, like let's say it was an electrical, something on the electric side, then we pull in the electric department. And I would defer to the electric department and their expertise because I am not a double E. Same thing, if it's a water thing, we pull in the water department, we discuss it with them because in the end, they're going to own those systems. So I have to work with them to come to a solution and not dictate the solution to them.
Yeah, so, and then tying it to this is, you know, the scope of work is defined here, right? So it's just kind of, we're pinging different things to try to understand, has all the Ts been crossed and Is dotted, to minimize, we can't eliminate, but to minimize any potential issues
I think
and
so.
additional funds.
I think so. I feel good about it. You know, and I think we pulled the teams in. We spent months with the electrical guys. We spent months with the water guys, with customer service, trying to make sure that we addressed everyone's issues. And like I said, when we put the RFP together, that was a team effort, not this is what I want. One of the things that we need to understand about AMI, it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't solve all your problems for you. It's a foundation. So in order to do a lot of the things that we've been talking about, to get information to the customer and do the customer portal, to be able to do the reactive metering, to be able to send out the messaging to customers, to be proactive. What you have to remember is you need a foundation, and that foundation is this. It's AMI and the metering. If all we were trying to do is get remote reads, we would never. I mean, if you wanted to do that efficient, you'd never do this. We'd stay the way we were because it's way cheaper to hire meter readers than to do this. The reason you're doing this, getting the reads back remotely, that just happens to be a benefit, one of the side benefits. That's not even the main reason you do this. The main reason you're doing this is so that you have intelligence in the field and you can now see what's happening. How big is my outage? Where is my outage? Who have I restored? How can I can do volt var, so now I can do transformer loading, so I can be more efficient. That's what saves the company millions of dollars over the life of the project. But you can't do any of that if you don't have the communications network. Think of it like internet for your home. You need the internet for your home to be able to use your, well, you can use your cell phone with that, but to do any of the smart home stuff that you want to have your alarm system tell you what's going on at your house.
Yeah.
To look
Yeah,
at,
so, sorry to interrupt.
does that make
because I-
sense?
Yeah, I think we understand the benefit. It was
Okay.
just more from the design, given that you're taking this approach on the best of breeds, right? So you're essentially a system integrator, right? There's going to be details there, trying to nail it down with the contracts, of course. We just wanted to get a feel for potential issues, right? If you feel comfortable, that's good.
Yeah,
We're not going to read this
I didn't
and
expect you to.
understand all that, but.
And we'll get to that a little bit. And if I were you, I would directly ask the question. I'm asking you to ask the question of me, of the consultant and the attorneys to, in the end, our job is to sit here and let you know that, look, we feel comfortable with it for this reason. So when we wind this up, I would encourage you to ask that question directly and we'd be happy to answer that.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and continue. If we can hit the next slide. And Cody, I'll let you speak to the legal aspects.
Sure. Board members, good to be with you here on a Friday morning. So we're going to be going over these slides on a legal aspect for each of the vendors. And I mean, legal terms, but to the extent that you all have questions that you want answered before about specific contractual provisions, we're happy to address those or at the board meeting itself. So the things that we for each of these vendors is the liability limitations, the indemnity, and the governing law and venue. To be a dispute, where would it be governed? We have it structured and negotiated was that the aggregate liability is not going to total amount paid to LNG under the agreement.
Kind of coming in and out.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on one second. Give me 1 second.
In my opinion, we rather hear you than see you, so maybe turn off your camera and we might get better service.
Is that better?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit better. Continue. Well, now it looks like you're frozen. There we go.
Okay. So there's no indirect, consequential, incidental, special, punitive, or any exemplary so for on this contract. But that excludes personal injury, all of those things. But we don't obviously anticipate anything like that happening with these kinds of contracts. The master agreement has a limitation of liability for the first 5 years of greater of 500,000 fees paid and payable. And then after the initial 5-year term, there's the liability is set at fees paid and payable to fees up to 20 months. So that will really be more of the
This is not working out.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you.
You may need to turn off your camera if that helps with hearing you better. It's the buffering system within our systems here.
Does that sound better?
I mean, speaking with Cody, something that we will do during executive session.
Yeah.
So we could,
We could do that. We can go ahead and,
Yeah, he'll be
Madam
here
Chair, like I
first.
mentioned to you earlier, was that we would like to, at the conclusion of the meeting, I'll read the statement in there that allows us to go into executive session for us to consult with our legal counsel.
okay, so we can skip this slide.
Okay,
Go ahead.
we're going to skip the legal slides and we'll do that a little bit later because we're having trouble hearing you. Okay, next slide, Jason.
And I may dial in for those, then that way it's better. So
Okay. Badger, we're purchasing 18,000 water meters. Like, as I stated, we have about 57,000 total meters in the field, but we've already got about 40,000. So we only need to purchase 18,000 water meters, 40,000 registers, but we do need the 57,000 cellular endpoints to communicate with those meters. We're also included is the Beacon head-end software integrations and professional services. On the fee side, the water's more expensive. It's 11.1 million total capital and 37,000 monthly. part of that is because you remember they're cellular, so you also have a cellular service with basically each meter. This is a 10-year contract. The key takeaway here and we'll speak to this is Badger did not commit to PUB's damages terms. They have their standard. We did check with our consultants and they pretty much stick to their guns on it. I think legal was in the end, we were fine with that, but we can speak with Cody about that a little bit more. The other issue is that PUB was awarded the Water Smart grant after the board approved the project. The Water Smart grant is for $5 million. We will need to apply for a waiver because these meters are not made in America and it's a Buy America type of thing. Our understanding is that we should be able to get that waiver because most meters aren't made in America. PUB staff is working with eSource staff to get that waiver as we speak. Next slide. Okay, on Harris. Harris is a software company. That's SmartWorks. With Harris, we are purchasing the MeterSense program, VEE acceptance, prediction extension, KPI dashboard, automated MIMO, and automated remote disconnect. This will include software integrations to Kayenta, which is our customer information system. That's the billing system, which is also a Harris company. So we should not have any problems whatsoever. It also includes professional services, including training, testing, and management. Here, the capital part of the project is $370,000 and then $198,000 annual O&M. And this contract is for an initial 5-year term with 1-year renewal terms. Again, here we just mentioned that PUB used Harris's systems for also the customer portal that we recently purchased that we were speaking of is also a Harris software. And we've already done the preliminary configurations to do right sizing of the meter data management system. Next. Allegiant. Allegiant is the company that's going to do the meter installations, electric and water. So they'll be coming in and exchanging the meters out, electric and water. They'll install the RF communications network system. They'll help us do the testing, and then they'll pull out the old meters and package them for PUB to dispose of it. PUB is one of the things that we did do to try to mitigate some of the cost. Is PUB is going to be acting as the warehousing, because obviously you're bringing in a ton of meters, right? And then you need to exchange them, and you need crews going back and forth to pull the meters to install them. So we're going to be using our old warehousing facilities. We thought that was a place that we could it's secure. It has security cameras, obviously warehousing space. We were able to shave off a couple of $100,000 from the contract and use our existing facilities to do that. Here, the fees are 5.8 million capital, and that's it. Because once they're done, they're done. And then they're the key takeaways. Basically, they will abide by all the Water Smart restrictions. If you look at the third restriction, third takeaway down there, that's where we talk about the meter box work, and we're estimating from 700,000 to 3 million at this point. As we stated, we'll have better numbers later. And then we spoke about the PUB warehousing, reducing the total cost. Next slide. This is the overall capital budget. So the first column kind of shows you the total capital cost. And then the next column shows you 3 years of operating costs that we're going to capitalize in the project. And that would be the software maintenance and support for 3 years. And so you can see that the total is the 30.2 million that we were discussing. So far, everything's within scope. We may have shifted amounts a little bit from the original budget proposal, but we're still within budget. And we still have a contingency of about 2.5 million. Any questions on the budget?
How many years would this cover?
3.
$30 million, 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any other expenses, that we would need to continue to maintain the system? Meaning, any trainings that our staff would need or, spare parts or anything like that?
Yes, the training is included as part of this. So the initial training is included in the project. As far as spare parts, that would be like normal operations. So as time goes on, yes, whatever spare parts, that would be separate from this project. But that's just like we normally do. The meters are the same that we've been using for the last 10, 15 years. So just whatever normal maintenance. And on the software end, we will have the annual maintenance costs, but you would have that normally. That's a normal cost, going on for as long as you use the system.
Yeah, I guess on the ongoing, maybe you guys want to consider having some level of stock, in case something does. I mean, I'm sure that's what you guys normally do, maybe from the operation side, but
Right.
yeah, no. If you have, let's say, minimal stock that you're planning to have for either the electrical or water, maybe you want to include that, not as part of the project, but as an impact to the operations team to have the inventory there.
We will, when we get the opportunity, and that is one of the concerns to start the project, to be honest. Right now, it's a 26-week lead time because of supply chain issues for water meters. It's a 1-year lead time for electric meters. We have made some provisions to try to mitigate that for the IDA, but once we sign the contract, we can't do anything until we sign those contracts. So once we get the because you need the PO, you need the contract to get the PO, you need the PO to get the order. Once we do that, then we'll have a better idea, but that's what we're seeing industry-wide right now. So to your point, we would probably want to stock up on some extras if we can.
Yeah, some level of planning there just to
Exactly.
protect
Exactly.
the investment.
Which contracts have been signed here?
None. These are I'm speaking of the 4 contracts in front of you that we'll be taking to the board on Monday.
The capital budget by vendor.
Correct.
So there's more than 4.
Yeah, well, Landis and Gear, Badger, Allegiance, and SmartWorks are the 4 main ones. Eastworks, we already brought that contract to the board. I don't remember when, June, July. So that's already been approved by the board, and Spencer Fane.
So we're paying them that much regardless of what gets done?
No, we have a schedule, a very detailed schedule by effort, and it's paid based on the hours of work. So as they complete the work, then we pay them. If we were going to kill the project right now, then we wouldn't owe them a dime more than what we've spent. So it comes with deliverables. And then we budgeted about 100,000 for interfaces, for some miscellaneous interfaces that may pop up. Most of the interfaces that we have thought of are included in the project already, so we just put a little bit in there just in case. And again, we have the contingency. Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Next slide. And then this is the last official slide. This is the timeline and kind of what the schedule looks like for the project as we stand here today. So we're hoping to complete the vendor contracting and issue POs by the end of October and then begin moving forward. And it's approximately a 3-year project.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay. Well, thank you very
Eddie.
much.
Appreciate
And
the details.
Thank you, Eddie.
so at this time, I'm going to read the statement here that the Brownsville Public Utilities Board reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time to discuss any of the matters listed above as the authorized by the Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberations about real estate property, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberations about secure devices, 551.086, public utility competitive matters, 551.087, economic development, and 551.089, development of information resources. So at this time, we would like to move to closed session.
We need a vote?
I think we need to have the chair of the committee move to go to executive session.
I make a motion to move into executive session. You need a second.
I second that. I second that.
All in favor?
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Action to be taken. It was never posted for that, but you don't need to say anything.
Were we also being heard of?
Right. We'll close out.